What the?
Hey,
Matthew Volkwyn.
Sean MacIntyre.
What are you doing here?
What are you doing here in Osaka?
I'm just working. What are you up to?
Yeah, just, writing from the coffee shop, writing copy, having a good time.
Okay. I noticed that you're mic'd up.
Oh, hey, you mic'd up too.
Oh my God, there's a camera there. It sounds like we planned this entire thing.
Who would have thought?
Oh my God. Well, to be completely honest with you, I've recently taken to asking working copywriters a specific question, which is, if you could go back in time and do one thing, or maybe even three things differently at the start of your career, what would you do differently, and what do you potentially regret? I was wondering if that's a conversation that we could have.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's go sit in the shade and do it though. It's a bit hot right now.
All right, yeah. Fair. So, like we were just talking about, if you could go back in time to when you were first starting out as a copywriter, what would you have done differently? What are three things that you would have done differently?
So definitely the first one is skill over money.
What does that mean?
So for me, what I did wrong in the early days was, we all want to make money from the career, right? Like we all want to, grow a profession and have like a lifestyle that, copywriting is a great opportunity to do stuff, right? So I wanted to make more money, but I was told by many people, that this is about money, this is about money, this is about money, you can make a lot of money. So I think it just interfered with my focus on the actual skill. My dad would always tell me when I didn't have the skill, like when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, he's like, just focus on getting skills and the rest will take care of itself, And I took that advice to heart to some extent. I guess that's part of why I'm here today and still doing copywriting 8 years later. But the thing that, those early days in your career when you're just working in the agency or you're in that position where you're super busy all the time, that's the best time to get as much exposure to the craft and get as much perspective on the craft and develop the skills. That's the best time to do it, because later on, it suddenly becomes a thing of is this worth my time? Is this project worth my time? Let's say you know how to write emails and ads. It's I could make more money with email and ads right now than instead of learning sales letters and VSLs. So let me just focus on the stuff I'm already good at. And I think that later on in your career, it's harder to become the beginner again. It's harder to go and get those skills. But there's so many doors and there's so many opportunities that you miss out on if you don't have those skills. So I wish I had just focused that first year a little bit more on the skill side of things, not so much on the money side of things. I think I thought about money a little bit too much. I spent too much time thinking about how I would go from where I was to making more money. And this is what I tell a lot of copywriters I work with, a lot of my friends, a lot of people I coach as well. I say, just don't worry about this. Don't worry about the money so much. Go work for 2 years, get the experience, make the connections, focus on the career. Later on, the money will take care of itself with the skills, like my dad said, So I think that would be my first big thing I would have done differently,
Isn't that the great cliche of dad advice, where the thing that your dad told you that you ignored then becomes the thing that you eventually try to teach other people that they then ignore? Because I've been trying to tell people, who watch Copy That and stuff like that, the exact same thing, that if you focus on the skill and the craft, the money's going to fall. Money is just information. Information, it's a signal that tells you what's valuable in life. And somebody who is only interested in making more money is not inherently intrinsically valuable. Somebody with a skill that, a business wants to reward, that is, I think, something that's worth pursuing, and naturally the money is going to flow in that direction. So I agree 100%. There's definitely opportunity cost too. When you grow in this business, you just don't have time to go take a new course on a new thing.
Recently I had to write a sales letter, and I can write sales letters now. I learned how to do it, but I can write an email in 30 minutes. This sales letter still took me probably a week longer than it would have taken me if I had spent those 2 years writing more sales letters. I would have been able to get it done faster. I would have had more bandwidth, emotional bandwidth and energy to take it to that next level. Whereas the way I felt and I always feel with sales letters is, even though I can write decent sales letters, I always want to be done with the project, because I'm working on that. I'm working on how do I get to the point where I love the process all the way through, I do with email, because with email I'm much more competent. It's there's autonomy, or it's automatic. A lot of the energy that you take in the beginner phase, everything takes a lot of energy from you. When you get better at stuff, the energy is only taken for the last 10%. The first 90% is a bit more fun. It's a bit more fulfilling. So I'd say that's the big thing. The second thing I would say that I wish I'd done a little differently was I took a lot of advice from just the people I was working with. So I had a very like small world. This is how it's done. This is the way to make money with copywriting. This is how you should write copy. One of the coaches I was working with in the early days, I wrote a sales letter. Actually, speaking of sales letters, I wrote a sales letter, and he said to me, I don't really know if this is your thing. Like, just focus on email.
Right.
And I used to tell that story as for my clients and coaching mentees, I used to tell that story and say, oh yeah, my coach told me to focus on this one thing. I focused on the one thing and I got really good. And like, I used to think of that advice as actually like good advice. Actually, I mean, you always take advice thinking it's the good advice, right? When somebody first gives it to you, right?
Of course.
But now that I've been in the game for so long, especially over the last few years, that more projects are sales letters, more projects are this long form, direct response, cold traffic. Like there's more demand for that today. Now I'm thinking, well, this guy really didn't, that wasn't the best
advice,
feedback, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like that is the most important skill that you need as a direct response copywriter, is to be able to write the long form stuff that actually takes somebody from, cold all the way to I really need to get this product, right? So I think that was maybe more for his own benefit, because he needed somebody to be focusing on the email side, and he didn't really want to spend time training me on sales letters, right? And of course, the other negative effect of that was I didn't believe I was a good sales letter writer for a very long time. I was like, this is a coach, he's worked with so many people, he doesn't really think I can do it so well, I don't really know if I can. Meanwhile, now I look back on the project, I mean, we were talking about this off camera, right?
It's like, camera, yeah.
It wasn't the best.
It wasn't his fault.
I wasn't set up for success.
We can't go into specifics, but I know the people involved, and it was not his fault.
It's not my fault, guys. I just don't think I was set up for success with that project, right? And even if I was set up better for success, the offer itself wasn't that compelling. It wasn't that good of an offer. So copy coaching, I think I would have gone and got a copy coach. Independent. This is the key, right? It's like independent of the businesses you're working with, because when you work with a certain business, they have certain incentives and goals that they want to align with their team, and so that coach
that's going to influence.
Right.
Yeah.
That coach or that business was an education coach, education business. They had a few trusted copy coaches that they brought in, but it was always like for their business. Whereas you have to be thinking about yourself in the long term too, right? Because it's also your career. So having somebody independent, and I found this as a coach now for copywriters, is I will tell them, sometimes the feedback is, hey, your client is not treating you well. They're not setting you up for success here. You should probably start looking for a better client and find a way to either set a boundary here or walk away.
Yeah.
So of course the business is not going to want you to have a coach like that, because that coach is more empowering to you than the business, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there's both aspects of it. Is like having a good coach that will tell you, hey, you know what? Maybe this is actually not on you. Maybe this is something I've worked with thousands of, copywriters or hundreds of copywriters, or whatever. I've seen loads of different projects. You need to go and ask these questions, and you need to be firm about these things to your client. I think that would have given me a lot more confidence, because this is not actually about the skill as much as it is about having somebody in your corner,
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of it. You can read 2 or 3 books on copywriting and just put in the reps and have 1 or 2 people give you copy critique, and you can develop the skill relatively quickly. In fact, even the copy
chief, 80% of the way
even the copy chief inside the business, if you have a client that has a copy chief, like they're also going to be able to give you that feedback. But having somebody in your corner for your own career development, I think is very different. And so I wish I had just done that sooner.
I think the most valuable part about that, what you're describing, is that you need somebody in your life who can see the things that you're not seeing about your own life.
Yeah.
And, we've been talking a lot today about those very things, and identifying those things where you have suspicions and you have things that you're not very sure about, and really it's just getting clarification from somebody outside yourself who has been through it before, who can give you that sort of clarity of vision to sort of move forward with the thing that will be best in your best interest, as you're describing.
I mean, that's really it. It's a lot of copywriters, again, it goes back to the money thing, right? It's like I was so focused on the money in the very beginning that putting that money into somebody externally and spending that money was like uncomfortable to me. I was like, but it was just sitting in my savings. It's not like I was doing anything with that money, right? So I could have just taken even let's say 20% of my disposable income back then, and just said, you know what, I really don't care about the money. I just want to have somebody in my corner to help me level up the skills. I just think a lot of people don't know what they don't know, right? You don't know how much is out there because you're in this small bubble. I literally thought that this was all of direct response. All of copywriting was this little world. And so because of that, it was almost the scarcity of, I want to make sure that I maximize as much as possible from this bubble,
that
right?
little pie. Yeah.
And then as soon as you start working with people outside of it, like now that I've worked with so many copywriters, I actually can see all the different, there's all these different ways that copywriters add value. It's huge. Yeah, it's like a very, very big world. And it's not so small where, I mean, even last week I made 7 introductions, Sean, like 7 introductions, which is probably worth about $20,000 of recurring revenue collectively for copywriters.
Yeah.
And like the money's just there. There's so much money, and when you're working in this small space and you don't have external perspective, somebody, all it takes sometimes is just having a coach say, the skill you're doing here that they're paying you $3,000 a month for, like if you just keep working on this skill and you trust the process, and then you get this other skill that complements it, let's say it's sales letters or VSLs, if you go work full stack for a different business, they'll pay you $10,000 a month for that. Yeah. Just hearing that alone would have probably saved me a year of my life,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, a year's, sure, I mean, it is what it is, but
when you're younger, that's a larger percentage of your life, and so it's way more,
Yeah, because, I will say, and this kind of goes into the third thing I wish I'd done a little differently. When it comes to making money with copywriting, I think those first few years, you got to eat a lot of dirt. It's really not a pleasant experience. It's actually very difficult. I haven't seen a single person or a single copywriter tell me I really loved the first few years. Like I have nostalgia to it because I was learning new stuff.
Oh yeah, but it's like an abusive relationship.
But the beginning of the journey is actually very difficult, right? So why spend another year there? That's kind of how I see it. It's because back then I sacrificed quite a lot of things to get that right. Because to eat that dirt means less time with the people you care about because you have to be focused on the project. Yeah. More late nights. I mean, for 2 years I wasn't even really focusing on fitness. Like I didn't. Oh yeah. I almost didn't go to the gym, and that's actually probably the bonus. Fourth. Kind of regret or thing I would have done differently.
Take care of your body.
Like I should have just gone to the gym at least 3 times a week, even maintenance, not even like hard training, just maintain. Because it's taken me quite a while to get back to my physique and fitness I used to have, And I'm there now, sort of, almost there, almost back.
But it's all a work in progress.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We're all chasing Adonis.
But that's the thing, is like that year wasted, right? It's just, it wasn't necessary, and you really. And those years that you take to build your copywriting business, you don't get back with the people you care about. And I mean, I even lost 1 or 2 friends. Yeah. Right? And it's like, maybe today I would be such a good friend to them, you know? Today I would be so much more available, so much more present. Yeah, I mean, we can have a conversation about whether or not that person was the right kind of friend anyway, because they weren't so supportive or like they didn't. But it doesn't matter. It's like, I wish I'd had that year back, Yeah,
absolutely.
But the third thing, the actual third thing I would have done differently, I just want to cut the ego faster. I think, and to be fair, I know like young people, I think when we come into this industry, especially the current landscape, there's a lot of people promoting this ego. It's like, oh, you're this cool dude, I've got a cool car, I've got the penthouse, I'm flying first class, like I'm rich, and copywriting is going to make you rich too, right? Right. But it's not even the gurus, it's also the teams. There's certain teams and certain cultures in teams where the business owner behaves that way, and they kind of infuse their team with this
like an infection.
Yeah, they like make it like everything has to be like this. Like you have to wear these certain shoes, and you have to act a certain way, and you have to be this certain way. And it's like, if you're not doing this, you're not committed, or you're not. So I think that part of the reason I had the ego, because I didn't really have much of a. I never really tried to big myself up. Like actually it was quite difficult when I first got started to sell myself, because I didn't want to sell myself. I was like, what, But being around those people in the early days, they really kind of brought that side of me out, where it's like, oh, like I know and I know what I'm doing and stuff. And I think I was a lost opportunity to work on my personality, and also just be myself. So I had like 2 years there that I didn't. And I don't mean ego from a place of being arrogant. It's more like just, it was so focused on being what I thought that they wanted me to be, instead of just saying, hey, I'm Matthew, and here's how I bring value to my clients, and here's sort of the way my energy, and I just think I wasn't myself for a while.
You didn't have a rock to stand on.
Yeah, I just didn't have myself for a while there. I don't know if it was a financial loss, really. Like, I think it was okay. I think it was necessary growth. But I mean, 2 years of your life not being yourself, I think is like, I mean, it's a lot of time, right? It's another 2 years sort of wasted, right? It's like, I could have been me for longer.
Right.
So I think those are the big three.
I think that's really good. And what you're describing, there's actually a term for it in psychology. It's called professional deformation, where the thing that you do professionally does literally deform your perspectives about the world, your ideologies, your character, your personality, what you value. And there's almost a violence there. And no matter what you do, you're going to experience professional deformation, but some cultures are definitely more deformative than others. And I do think that if you do have some values and you do have certain things that you believe in very strongly, that either having a stronger boundary in those sorts of cultures or removing yourself when you feel threatened, sometimes that's something that people have to do. But Matthew, this was incredible. Where can people listen to you more, and where can they go for the second part of this conversation where you ask me my big early career regrets?
YouTube.
Oh my God. The thing that they're on, where they
YouTube.
are.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2 on
Where on the screen should we put the links and the stuff with the things?
no, I don't know, somewhere.
Oh,
Somewhere.
Wait. So this,
Yeah.
it's going to be left of frame. So over his face is going to be where you can find the next part of this video.
Thank you,
See you over
Sean.
there.